Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mary Ann Monteleone, Vice President of Professional Development, and I'd like to welcome you all to LIBOR's Wednesday webinar. We have a very special presentation today, Global Engagement by Lisa Calarco, Manager of Global Programs and Outreach for the National Association of Realtors. So we'll let you settle in and we will start on time. And again, we welcome you. So as you log in and join us, welcome to LIBOR's Wednesday webinar with Lisa Calarco, who is Manager for Global Programs and Outreach for the National Association of Realtors. Lisa has a great program that she recorded for LIBOR members, and we will start in just a moment. I want to introduce Lisa before we start the program. I don't want to leave out anything, so excuse me for reading her introduction, but I want to make sure that I cover everything. Lisa Calarco is the Manager of Global Business Development and Outreach for the National Association of Realtors Commercial and Global Services group for state and local associations around the US, establish, grow, and global councils to support members, global business development, and the larger communities they serve. Lisa has been with the National Association of Realtors in various roles for 12 years and has spent the last 4 with the National Association of Realtors Global in the CIPS and Global Council areas. Before we start the program, I also want to congratulate 2 very lucky winners who entered LIBOR's Global Sweepstakes, who will have free and complimentary tuition to the CIPS Local Markets course that will be held on April 19th and 20th. They entered the sweepstakes, and 2 of our LIBOR members are the lucky recipients. So congratulations to Katrina Ambrosio and Dawn Costello. Congratulations. You won the LIBOR Global Development Committee sweepstakes, and you will be entered into the local markets course to start your CIPS designation April 19th and 20th. You will be contacted. So without further delay, we introduce Lisa Calarco. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Long Island. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you all today for your global meeting. I wish I could be here live, not live in person yet, but live via Zoom. But I appreciate your committee and your staff members understanding that sometimes life has its own plans. And if 2020 has taught us anything, that is for sure. So I am here via video, and I will promise you I'll probably stumble as if I was live and everything like that, but I'm going to give you the exact same information I would have if I could have been there in person and live with you today. So just as a quick intro, my name is Lisa Calarco. I'm the Manager of Global Programs and Outreach for the National Association of Realtors. And what that means is it's my job to work with state and local associations and their volunteer leaders to establish and grow global programming throughout the United States. And LIBOR has a very strong global group, and I am very honored to be here with you all this morning. So I'm going to give you an overview of what global engagement is, some of our research, some of the products, research products that we have, other ways that you can take advantage of all of the services that NAR has, and why we pay attention, very good, close attention to this segment of our market. But before we get started, it's always good to know what we're talking about or who we're talking about. Doesn't matter what group I'm talking to, I always like to establish a baseline of what I mean when I talk about the research and who we're referring to. And so global clients here, as you can see, are defined in multiple ways. Foreign buyers living abroad, immigrants, first-generation buyers, Americans buying abroad, clients with international connections, and investment buyers. So it's not just one type of buyer, it's multiple types. And these are all of them that we talk about when we look at the financial impacts and other such information we garner from this group. To give you a quick overview of the 2020 International Report, and this report is obviously a report we do annually, and it can be found on our website at nar.realtor/research. It's under the International Research tab. The interesting part about the 2020 report was that it was in the field last March. So it collects data from year prior, right? It needed to know what happened in the year before. So the data was collected from March 2019 to March 2020. And we all know what happened in March 2020. So this is the perfect capsule of everything that happened in the international residential space of home buying by international purchasers up until the COVID lockdowns began happening. And the inversely interesting part is that our 2021 report is about to hit the field any day now. And so that report will also equally give us the exact 1 year view of most, countries around the world being under lockdown, including the United States, and what impact that had on this segment of buying in the United States. But when we look at 2020, we saw that there were $74 billion worth of international purchases made in the residential sector, which represented about 154,000 properties across the United States. And 61% of those purchasers were resident foreign buyers. And so there's two types of buyers. There's the resident foreign, which is exactly what it sounds like. Those are people on green cards, long-term visas, residents here of the United States, new immigrants to the United States. On a green card. I think I just said that. So that's 61%. And that number we have seen climb over the last few years. Obviously, the remaining 39%, those are the foreign buyers, the non-resident foreign buyers. So those are perhaps investment buyers, or, even our friends to the north, the Canadians who purchase the snowbirds, if you will, who purchase property but aren't residents or seeking residence in the United States, but can visit their property for a specified amount of time per year without having to apply for any sort of visa or resident status. So those make up the remaining 39%, but the 61% resident foreign buyers, we'll come back to this a lot in the report and that in the presentation. And so that's why I bring it up. We can look at the 2020 top 5 states for foreign buyers, and you'll see right there that California comes in at number 3. It's Florida, California, New York. Oh, they took that back. Number 4, California, Florida, Texas, New York, and New Jersey. So 5% of that $74 billion we saw in 2020, 5% of that went to New York State. And you can really, I bring this point up here a lot when you can, because this report will dive into not only where that money went, but who that money was coming from. And so I will say, look at New York, 5%. What does that 5% represent? 51% of that 5% was by Asian or Oceania, which, Australia, New Zealand, those areas and the islands. That's where 51% of the 5% of that 74 billion came from. New York was top amongst Chinese, Asian, Indian, and Colombian buyers for 2020. And so let's say one of you get relocated from New York, you decide I'm going to move to Florida, right? I think that's a pretty traditional route most East Coasters will take down from New York to Florida to get some of that sunshine and vitamin D. And you're like, oh, I've been doing international real estate. I know it all. I'm good. There'll be an easy transfer. But when you look at the Florida representation, you see majority of their buyers are Latin American and Canadian. And so they're different. It's a different international piece of the puzzle down in Florida. And so not that you can't transact, but it's going to take, you're going to have to learn if you're not already working with those segments in New York. Perhaps you've mostly been working with the Asian, Chinese, Asian, Indian, whatever, from Asia. You're not going to see a lot of those purchasers in Florida. And so it's learning the new cultures, the new way that business is done in Latin America or Canada. So international is not just a one size fit all, is the summary here is what I'm trying to say. So you need to learn your market. You need to understand what's happening in your market. And these reports really dive in to what's happening in your market. And we have the top 5 that we just saw, and you can see them here on the screen. And then we have information on what we call, the other players, but where international business is also ticking up higher. It happens in all 50 states across the United States, but a lot of it tends to happen in these 5, plus we're seeing a lot of activity in North Carolina, Arizona, Minnesota, Georgia, Illinois, and Virginia. So this report, if you're in one of those market areas or perhaps looking to move to one of those market areas, you can get some really great information. If I'm looking to move, I've been mostly dealing with Latin American buyers. I'm moving to an area that is heavily influenced the international market by Asian buyers. What do I need to know to fill the gaps in my learning there? Now, if we flip it and say, okay, who were the top 5 investors in US residential real estate in 2020? We saw that China, Canada, Mexico, India, and Colombia. Colombia came on the scene for the first time in 2020. They knocked off the UK. The UK had always been in the top 5 mostly at the 5th place level. And in 2020, we saw a surge from our neighbors down south in Colombia. And then, like I just showed you, they were investing in New York. And so I'm wondering how many of you were influenced or affected by that surge in investment. But again, so it changes, right? So you can't just look at the report once. You can't just say, I looked at the 2016 report, I understand international business. This report, I wait for with bated breath every year. I dive into it, I print it out, I annotate the heck out of the data. There's so much robust data in there to pull out interesting nuggets. And so I highly encourage you to do the same. Again, the 2020 report is available. The 2021 report is on our, is in the field and typically is released sometime around July or August after all the processing of the data is done, and you'll see, and obviously I will alert the global councils that it's out there, and you'll probably see it start to hit the headlines. So let's look at where these top 5 international investors invest, and like this lines exactly up with the report on when we looked at New York. You'll see China, 14% of the 11 billion coming in from China was going to New York, and then New York hits us again at the Colombian investment. So 3% of the 1.3 billion coming from Colombia was going directly to New York. But again, if you can see here, there is a variety of states popping in for where these top 5 international investors are investing. So again, this just helps provide you with more detail and background to help you help your clients. So I think it's important that we note that I think, and I can only imagine what the 2021 report will hold. I have no expectations. I mean, I don't think anybody anticipated the high volume of sales that we've had in the real estate market throughout this COVID pandemic. So I don't know what to expect, quite frankly, from the international investment side. Gut tells me we'll probably see a drop because a lot of that investment was driven by tourism. Especially in tourist areas. But is that true? Are we still going to see, are we going to see as big of a fall off or not? Don't know. Won't know till the end of the summer. So we shall see. But I think it's important to note that even in 2020, when we saw the 74 billion, you may have seen headlines like, oh, another decline in international investment. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's no denying that's what the data shows. 5% decline from 2019 to 2020. We went from 77 to 74 billion. However, if you look at 2017 and 2018, those were all-time high years. Those are probably the outliers of the data that we're going to see. And so I think it's important to just sort of change the narrative a little bit and say the foreign investment in the US residential real estate market has returned to normal. If you look back 2011, 2012, 2013, the 74 billion is right about the median of what we're looking at before everything kind of went bonkers in 2016 to 2018. And a lot of that investment we were seeing was from our Chinese investment. There was a lot of issues that were driving that investment to all-time high levels, political and economic issues that were driving that. And then once that kind of tapered off, we went right back to normal levels. 4% of existing homes were purchased by foreign buyers. And then again, on this graph, you can see the difference between that resident and non-resident buyer. And so you'll see, for example, in 2017, the bulk 74 billion, which was our total for 2020, was brought in by non-resident buyers. So when I'm talking like the shift is happening, that's what I'm talking about. You can see the difference there. Again, just good data to have, good information to have to share with your clients or your fellow agents and anything like that to explain what's happening in the real estate market. But it did decline. So why? Why did we? What are the factors that led to that decline, that 5% decline? Number one, low inventory. I don't have to tell any of you that is still an issue. So that will still impact us going forward here. There just wasn't enough homes. There's not enough homes for a domestic buyer. There's not enough homes for an international buyer. So that is impacting the amount of investment that can happen. There's money ready to be invested, but there's nowhere to invest it in. So that's going to impact international, it's just impacting real estate in general. The strong US dollar, and when the dollar is strong, which it had regained its strength prior to the pandemic. And when that happens, US home prices are more expensive when measured in a foreign buyer's local currency, which limits your spending capability. And so for a while there, the Canadian dollar was strong against the US dollar, and the Canadians went on a buying spree. They were investing any expendable income into property in the United States. It's proximity, they're snowbirds, they're gonna go to where it's warm. They're gonna invest when their dollar can buy more of our properties. And so as currencies fluctuate, you may see a higher rise in buyers from those countries in which their currency is stronger than ours. But for a while, ours became stronger than most, and so that tapered down a lot of that foreign investment. So that's another thing to pay attention to. Are you paying attention to currency fluctuations and how they're impacting the buyers that you work with? Generally speaking, global slowdown, rising economic growth improves spending capability, but many countries have seen a slowdown in that growth from 2016 to 2019, and of course that continued into 2020. So as economic growth slows down, that's going to slow down the willingness of people to spend money on purchases such as, second homes or vacation homes, things like that. And then a fourth factor we saw starting to really impact was immigration. There were just fewer persons obtaining legal permanent status, again, tying back into that 61% of resident foreign buyers. So if they're not obtaining legal resident status, then they're not purchasing property. There were 2.2 million less non-immigrant visas issued in 2019, and Chinese visas were halved to 1.1 million in 2019. Knowing China is our largest investor, paying attention to their visa abilities, their ability to obtain visas, and how that's impacting the real estate market was evident in 2020. Some of the other top line highlights, again, this is a 43-page report. I'd bore you to tears if I was going to go through it line by line. So just the high notes, if you will, 314.6 was the median purchase price of a foreign buyer. That's median. That's across the United States. I know probably most of your markets are like, that's all. It's a median across the United States, but it just shows that the U.S. Buyer, your domestic buyers, their median purchase price tends to be about $40,000 less. So your foreign buyers are purchasing at a higher price point. That's the information to be gleaned from that. 48% of the foreign buyers purchased in a suburban area. Again, those non-resident buyers, they're not looking necessarily to be purchasing in a large metro area. They're settling down. They're resident foreign buyers. They want to be in a community. Maybe perhaps they have a family, and so they're gravitating more towards a suburban area, and 50% of them are purchasing it as their primary residence. So all the data is lining up to see like these are members of our community. These are people looking to live and establish themselves here in the United States and in your communities. So that's your community. Are you paying attention to how that's impacting your business? And is your business model adjusting to be able to adequately represent these folks? So I'd like to do this game, and I know I'm not live, so we can't really do it, but I'm going to pause and let you noodle it over and throw some stuff in the chat. I always do this as a moment of levity, as a moment of, this is why we're so attractive, right? So where in the entire world are home prices the most expensive? So if you're watching this, and if you can do the chat, throw some information in the chat. It's always just fun to see, and I'll let Evan or Tessa or Marianne, whoever's moderating this, give it a look over. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds. I'm going to guess some of you are throwing information in there. Perhaps a San Francisco got thrown in there. Maybe a London. Where else have I seen a lot of information come from? Tokyo. Okay, long enough, right? Hong Kong Island is the most expensive real estate in the world. It's $28,570 dollars per square meter. So we're looking at about averaging 120 square meter residence in Hong Kong would cost a buyer $3.4 million. So 120 square meters, somewhere in the ballpark of about 1,300 and change square feet. So think about that in your market area, 1,300 square feet, maybe not Manhattan, but anywhere else, 1,300 square feet, and you're shelling out $3.4 million. That's the most expensive real estate market in the world. The most expensive metro in the United States is San Jose, Santa Clara, around the Silicon Valley in California. Their price, dramatically down, is $8,070 per square meter. So 120 square meter residence, the most expensive 120 square meter residence in the US real estate market comes in at just under $1 million, $968,400. So you could buy 3 homes in the most expensive metro in the United States, or 1 in Hong Kong for $3.4 million. So it's just a moment. It's just, I know even that sounds crazy to me, like $1 million for 1,300 square feet. Maybe not so crazy in some of your markets, but I could not imagine shelling out that amount of money. And I think for us in the US real estate market, who have seen some probably bonkers prices listed for square feet that we'd never pay for, it's good to know. It's also just eye-opening to realize that, wow, in comparison with the most expensive in the world, where does the US fall? And then ours is, safe, reliable. It's an investment. You don't have to worry about your, investment going away as long as you pay your bills and your mortgages and your insurance and all that. That property is yours. And the chances of it, appreciating in value are pretty solid. At least hopefully not losing much of your investment. It's safe, it's secure. And that is why a lot of our international friends are investing here in the United States. Okay, so let's move on and talk about opportunities. What is an opportunity? I don't think I need to tell you, but I will. Defined as a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. So 2020 gave us a lot to think about, a lot to noodle on. And I think most of even what we saw from the 2020 report, which was before COVID, holds true through this last year. So you've got sellers, right? So let's look at it. So maybe we're not seeing as many buyers because we don't have as many properties. Or perhaps, the limit in travel has driven down your buyers. But what about those buyers? Are they willing to be sellers? Are they looking to get out of the purchase? Do you know your international clients in your, in your book of business? Do you know who they are? Have you had a conversation with them? Have you looked at their local currency and our local currency, especially the non-resident foreign buyers, right? The ones that perhaps just are holding property here in the United States. Are they considering cashing out? Have you brought it to their attention that perhaps their currency is stronger right now, might be a good idea they can make, and with the market not having a lot of homes for sale, the prices are increasing, on and on. Could you turn that opportunity, instead of looking for the buyers, are you approaching your former buyers and inquiring if perhaps they would be interested in selling? Does it matter? I mean, unless you're exclusively a buyer's agent, shouldn't your buyers be able to become your sellers? And that's an opportunity in 2021. Education. With limited inventory and less buyers, now is the time to be involved, to make sure you have the knowledge and skills necessary to help the specialized needs of these clients. And so how do you stand apart? How do you say, okay, there's, 5 foreign buyers for one property. How do I get that buyer that's going to buy that property? How do I sell myself as more experienced than another agent who's also attempting to grab that buyer? And so educate yourself, be involved, network. It's another one, networking. Do you have contacts for referrals? So maybe your buyers are like, you know what, New York. I mean, how many headlines have we seen where, maybe buyers are leaving the metro areas for the suburban areas or for those secondary or tertiary markets? Like, okay, I don't have to live in metro New York anymore because my job has gone remote, or the remote flexibility is on the horizon for my future, so I don't have to live near a train line, and so I'm going to go out farther from when I'm going to go to Connecticut, I'm going to go to New Jersey. And do you have those referrals? Have you spent this time in lockdown or downtime, if you've had any, networking? Are you creating those opportunities? And like I said, perhaps your seller wants to return to or take their money and move it to a vacation spot in Jamaica. Have you networked enough? Are you connected to a network that you know who to refer them to? You cannot and should not be selling real estate anywhere except where your license allows you to. And so, but you can refer, or you can connect them to somebody that you can still have the opportunity to have a financial gain from. And so, are you spending this time networking? I know so much of it has moved online, and so much of us do not enjoy that, but it was an opportunity to connect without having to spend the money traveling and going in person and connecting. There were still tons of connections being made, perhaps even more so in the global aspect, because like I said, you didn't have to spend thousands of dollars to go to an event overseas in order to start networking. You could have done so virtually. That was and remains an opportunity as we're slightly beginning to feel a little light at the end of the tunnel, but maybe not quite yet. So the time is still right for those opportunities. And then, of course, community. 60% again of those foreign buyers were recent immigrants who reside in the United States for work, or as students, or as permanent green card or legal status holders. They are part of your community. Are you? And I know you are part of your community, but are you connecting to those parts of your community? And I ask that of you as a person, you as a brokerage, or you as an association. Are you connecting to those community parts of your community that assist people looking to be welcomed into your community? Are you there? Like, just participating in like a welcome thing, or even back to school for international students, like a welcome back thing, just the introductory, like, here we are, we're here, we support this part of our community. We have agents who are specialized to help anybody interested in purchasing. We've got specials, people speak different languages, and we're here to help. We're part of your community. You guys are such integral parts of your community. Don't forget this part of your community. We also have another really cool research piece that was just released in January. It was a survey for the first time that we sent to over 3,500 members of our bilateral partners around the world. And so it was almost the inverse of our Who's Buying Here report, asking our agent, our members, like, what international clients have you had, whatever. This was asking that of our partners around the world. And we had great results. And if you go to the websites listed there, nar.realtor/research, blah, 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 but generally research, the research tab, look under international. And it's an interactive results survey. So you can go there, and we have 14 countries that had significant data that we could compile and report on. And you can see what their top foreign buyers were. So perhaps India or Spain, like, who are the top foreign buyers? Where are they buying that property in your country? What's the price? How did they finance it? So again, if you're working with clients here, and maybe one of your clients says, you know what, I want to purchase a second home in Spain. What can you tell me about the prices, or how you go about financing it, or what what are their prices versus our prices. We have some really great data there. So I would encourage you, if that's conversations you're having, or if it's a conversation you're finding yourself in the future, we do want you to know that NAR does have that information coming directly from our bilateral partners. So feel free to go ahead and check that out. So aside from that, how can we help, right? We talked about all the what's coming in, the opportunities and everything like that, but what else does NAR have and how can we help? Excuse me. We do, of course, have global support. We have 109 partner associations in 74 countries around the world, and that represents about 7 million real estate professionals. We have 27 NAR global ambassadors. Those are members just like you who apply for and get vetted and approved and appointed by the incoming NAR president to serve as their global ambassador to a grouping of countries around the world where our partners reside. And we have, on top of that, 5 global coordinators. And so those, if you would think of it, they're almost like their supervisors. They oversee the regions, South America, Western Europe, Eastern Europe. We have 5 of those. So they are watching all the activities going there and reporting, sending information to us. They're going to do a update. They do quarterly updates on Zoom. I believe the next one is April 6th live. We'll have that. So if you're interested, if you go to our Facebook page, NAR Global, you can register for that upcoming webinar just to hear an update quarterly of what's going on in each of the 5 regions around the world as a refresher or an update. And yes, I'm sure it'll be recorded and shared for later. We have 130 global business councils, which you guys are a part of that group. There, we have those in 28 states across the United States. Part of the responsibility, some of them are ambassador associations, and we have 46 ambassador associations. LIBOR is the ambassador association to Spain. And so these are association to association connections with those partner associations in the countries around the world. And these are, I don't have to explain it to you guys, you're part of it. And if you're not, Tessa, Evan, Marianne, they'll be able to tell you more about what that relationship does, and what that means for you as a member and how that helps NAR. And so together, ambassador associations, global ambassadors, regional coordinators, we have all these resources and experts for you to tap into. So if you're sitting there stuck going, oh my gosh, I have this question I'm getting regarding something happening in France, who in the world can help me with that? Do I have to go through my Rolodex? Is that a thing? Go through my Rolodex and figure out who to contact, or NAR has partners in France. We also have a global ambassador to France. We have a global coordinator who oversees Western Europe, and we have an ambassador association who connects US and France. And so through all of those layers, if you're still not getting the answer you have, I'd be hard pressed to think you're not getting the answer, but they can at least put you in touch with somebody who can get you the answer. So we have all of those. And we also have 5,000 plus international Realtor members. And so we have, you go to the NAR directory on nar.realtor member directory, you can search by country. So you can search for an international Realtor member, and these are members of our bilateral partners. So they have to subscribe to, the only partner is they're vetted, and they have to have a code of ethics that is similar, not exact, but similar to ours. And so then their members of those bilateral partners can become members of NAR if they wish. And so at least they subscribe to a code of ethics. Their partners are our partners. And so these are people you can enter into a relationship with, do your own vetting, like you would with a US agent, but they are international Realtor members. So maybe, you didn't get the answer, but you do see we have a member in France. And so maybe that's where you're going to start and reach out to and talk to somebody that can help your client. You can find all of these directories at nar.realtor/global. Under global alliances, you can find who these ambassador associations are, who the global ambassadors are, who the global coordinators are. That information is all there. Their contact information is there. You do not have to get a special hall pass to talk to any of these people. They are all here to help you help yourselves and your clients. We also have a real estate practices around the world directory. It's kind of a best practices resource, if you will. General guidelines on real estate practices around the world. We asked each of our bilateral partners to provide us, we sent them all the same survey information and said, can you provide us with these answers? And those that did sent it back in. We have a very robust library. So again, perhaps this is just a screenshot of the information provided small. There's a lot more information provided by our partners in China. So, you know, again, if you're working with a client from China and they're struggling with commission fees, well, it could be because in China, it's different. It's structured different than here in the United States. So you're going to have to take a moment and understand the difference and understand to explain how it works here in the United States. Or, you know, is there property restrictions? So maybe, maybe your client is like, I want to purchase something in China. Okay, well, in order to do that, you know, you can purchase self-occupied commercial property, no restrictions, but I don't know about residential. You know, there's certain things, certain countries, you know, have a minimum, you have to have a visa, you have to be on a visa, or, you know, if you purchase a property, you may get citizenship in that country. And so that kind of information we do have here. So again, if you're scratching your head, perhaps don't go to Google first, come here. We do have real estate practices around the world to at least begin to provide you with the information you may be seeking. We have a series of podcasts, if you will. It's called Platinum Perspectives. Last year in 2020, I interviewed 11 state and local associations who had earned the Platinum Global Achievement Program Award. And we asked them how they created their high achieving global groups and what that meant to their members and their communities. They're about an hour long. They're a deep dive. And so if you're sitting here as a committee member or future committee member, staff, whatever, and you're like, oh, where do we push, how do we push this aspect of our, you could read the summaries of each of the, oh, okay, this one is talking about diversity, or this one's talking about economic development, things like that. They shared some really great information, and it was, you know, just a conversation, and it wasn't all like, this was super easy. They got into like, here's where we struggled and here's where we overcame that. And it was a really popular series. So you can listen to it at nar.realtor/platinum-perspectives. All 11 from 2020 are there. And then in 2021, it was launched in January with an episode called What is Global? So if you really want to deep dive into what NAR's global efforts are, why we do them, what all the pieces mean, and how they all fit together, head there and listen to that as well. 2021, we're aiming to do 6 episodes throughout the year, bringing us big picture ideas on how global integrates in many aspects throughout the association. So we'll keep you posted on the next podcast, but at any time, you could go to nar.realtor/platinum-perspectives. They're there. They're the audio files only. You don't have to sit and stare at your computer. And, you know, you don't have to view them live either. We do them live, and then we post a podcast afterwards. And so if you're ever curious about what's going on, just bookmark that page and head over there to check it out. And of course, there's the Certified International Property Specialist, which is NAR's only international designation. So when we were talking earlier about education and how to stand head and shoulders above, if you really are interested in becoming an expert in the international real estate market, this is NAR's only designation and for international specialists. We have about 4,000 designees in 40 countries around the world. Again, that ties into that networking opportunity there. So you might not know how business is transacted in Thailand, but if somebody holds a CIPS designation, they've gone through the exact same education you have. They had to have submitted the exact same application you did in order to hold that designation. So that's just another level of trust built in on perhaps a future referral for business for you or your clients. You can find out more information about it at nar.realtor/CIPS. It is a series of 5 one-day courses that take a look at 3 regions around the world, Europe and the Americas and Asia Pacific. And at the end of this year, the member development team has said they are reviving the Africa elective course, which hasn't been around for probably about 10 years. So they're I think it's the Middle East and Africa So they're going to revive that one, and that's going to be an additional elective too. So if you're starting, even if you hold your CIPS, that might be one you want to check out if you're seeing clients coming from that region of the world and you'd like to educate yourself a little bit further on that. But again, nar.realtor/CIPS. Any questions about your CIPS or this, perhaps new course, anything like that, go to CIPS. You can email CIPS@nar.realtor. And the member development team will be able to help you with any of those questions you may have. It is a designation, so it does require annual renewal. So if you're like, oh, I earned that 10 years ago, I must still have it, and I can't find myself in the directory, you may want to give them a call. It is an annual renewal with most designations, but it includes the CIPS networking Facebook page, which is probably one of the most amazing networking pages I have seen. Active, people always talking to each other, looking for help, looking for clients, looking for property. You cannot post property listings in there. Obviously, that would just bog down the information exchanges that are happening, but you certainly can network in there with those 4,000 people from 40 countries around the world, especially if you're focused on the international sector of real estate. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope it wasn't too much. Hope you didn't drink from the fire hose too much. Again, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for, again, giving me grace for today. And if you have any questions, at the bottom there, you'll find my email address. It's lcalarco@nar.realtor. Anytime, send me an email and I will, if I can't answer the question, I will certainly get you in touch with somebody who can. So thank you again, Long Island. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Stay safe and stay healthy, and I will talk to you all very soon.